2020 was one of the worst years in a long time, but that doesn't mean there wasn't some good that came out of it. We had some pretty substantial smartphone releases, and even if a lot of them came at a time when not everyone could afford to drop $1,000 or more on a phone, there were some huge steps forward in the budget to mid-range, such as the Poco F2 Pro and, more importantly for some, the 2020 iPhone SE. A successor to the miniature iPhone SE of 2016, which was a fan favorite for those of us who have smaller hands or simply don't want to carry an entire brick around in their pants pocket or purse. It may not be flashy or have 6 cameras or a top-notch Face ID system, nor is it adorned with a high-resolution OLED display. But stick around and let me tell you why I think the iPhone SE is the best iPhone we've had in years. I'm Dave with TechDove. Let's find out why I think you should consider the SE for your next iPhone. Something Apple has always done well is displays. Whether it's LCD or OLED, Apple knows how to make a colorful, bright display, even if they haven't always had the highest resolution or the highest refresh rate. The iPhone SE of 2020's 4.7-inch LCD is no different. In a world filled with massive glass slabs approaching 2011 tablet screen sizes, it's refreshing to see a compact form factor make a comeback. And make a comeback it did. The iPhone SE is one of Apple's most popular models in 2020. The screen, which is largely unchanged from the iPhone 8's display, while only being 750 by 1334 pixels, equaling a PPI of 326, with a somewhat horrendous 64.5% screen-to-body ratio, it may seem outdated on paper, when actually its diminutive size makes for a great viewing experience. Pixel peepers will be happy to know at normal viewing distances and angles, the image quality is still top tier. This really is a great display, and don't let anybody tell you just because of the pixel density that it's not. Speaking of top tier, Apple hasn't always been known for their build quality. One only needs to Google Bendgate to understand what I'm talking about. Though in recent years, Apple has stepped up their game in this department, creating some of the best feeling premium phones on the market. Gone are the days of iPhones shattering when you breathe too hard on them. And gone are the tacoing iPhones of years past that would bend from tapping the screen too hard. While the more premium iPhones use stainless steel for their frame material, the SE uses glass and an aluminum frame, which for such a small phone definitely helps with weight. And you're not sacrificing water resistance here either. The iPhone SE comes with the same water resistance rating as the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11 before it. Remember at the top of this video when I told you I believe the iPhone SE is the best iPhone in years? The size and build quality has a lot to do with that statement. While the screen can feel a bit cramped, you don't have to perform hand gymnastics in order to use it. So I'll call that a solid win. What you lose in screen real estate, you regain in comfortability and ease of use. Anyway, the SE is super sturdy and it's not going to fold under pressure like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl or anything. This is a solid phone. Sorry about that, Chiefs fans. For $399 and for its size, you would expect the sound coming out of this tiny thing to be abysmal. But you would be very wrong. Like many phones, it's using a top earpiece speaker in tandem with the bottom firing speaker. It's loud and full sounding though, because of its size, it's not quite as loud as some larger phones, but it'll get the job done for most situations. As per usual, there's no headphone jack aboard this phone, and I wouldn't expect to see one ever again on an iPhone, seeing as Apple is likely going to remove even the lightning port sooner or later. You'd be forgiven for thinking any phone under $700 would get you subpar performance. It's kind of been the MO for budget phones for years. You sacrifice cameras, performance, and build quality for a lower price tag and maybe some better battery life. However, the iPhone SE breaks that mold. For $400, you get an A13 Bionic processor and 3GB of RAM. And Apple hasn't throttled back this processor at all for this tiny form factor. This thing is a top fuel dragster disguised as a smart car. Everyday performance is on par with the iPhone 11 series of phones, which makes sense, they all share that same A13, clock speed and all. And gaming is great too. And while yes, the screen is small, even by 2017 standards, multitasking and switching between apps is also no issue for this minuscule monster of a phone. I've had no lag, hang-ups, or crashes while using this phone nearly every day for the better part of 5 months now. I prefer to take my time getting to really know a phone, to see it before and after software updates. And after 3 updates, 1 major and 2 minor, performance has been a delight. With small phones comes large compromises. The SE is no exception. Packing a meager 1821 mAh battery, the iPhone SE is not something I would call an endurance champion of any sort. With the brightness at 50% and with heavy usage, I saw anywhere from 4 to 5.5 hours of screen on time. Which, while isn't great by flagship standards, you have to remember this little guy has an A13 under the hood. Much like the iPhone 8 and every iPhone since, it features wireless charging and even fast charging. It will accept charge from my 30-watt Apple charger, which will get it from 0 to 50% charge in under half an hour. Since Apple's move to Face ID, Touch ID has been phased out on iPhones. Until the 2020 SE, that is. In a year that saw everyone wearing masks, it was a smart move by Apple to resurrect the fingerprint scanner on at least one model of phone. Seeing as Face ID can't scan your face if you're in public, wearing a mask like you're supposed to, there's not really much to be said about reliability here. It's a capacitive scanner from Apple, and we all know Touch ID is top tier when it comes to biometrics. The SE is running on iOS 14 and will continue to get updates for many years if it's anything like every other iPhone since 2007. Something I wish Android manufacturers would pick up on so badly. The modern trend of triple or even quadruple cameras on the back of phones is nice, right? You get many different perspectives, more options for getting that perfect shot. But not everyone is a photographer. Most people buying the SE probably don't mind that the SE only has 2 cameras. One 7-megapixel camera on the front and one 12-megapixel on the back. And before you jump down my throat about defending one camera in 2020, let me explain. In most budget phones at or around this price, you get a few cameras, yes, but they're mostly high-resolution main cameras that don't take the best shots, paired with maybe an ultra-wide and a 2-megapixel macro camera, or a depth sensor. With the SE, you're getting an iPhone camera that has proven itself to be among the best on the market. Whether you like Apple or you hate them, you can't deny iPhone cameras have historically been stellar. That's what you're getting here. You're not getting 5 different perspectives, you're not getting a wild 108 megapixel primary sensor, but you are getting an iPhone camera, which much like the Pixel 4a, you're getting a shooter that punches way above its weight class. That right there is why I'm actually content with this decision. Even if it does lack some of the features of other budget phones, such as night mode, I'm going to see if I can get some clarification on why this was omitted, and I'll leave my findings in the comments below, but you do get slow-mo, you get 4K 60 video recording with Apple's historic video quality. To me, this is a compromise that feels worth it. The budget phone market really is getting good. As Marquez says, good phones are getting cheap, and cheap phones are getting good. The SE is no exception. While yes, it has massive bezels and it doesn't have a fancy Face ID system or multiple cameras, what it does have is a starting price of $400 for 64 gigabytes, $450 for 128 gigabytes like I have here, or $549 for 256 gigabytes of storage. That's a killer deal any way you slice it for an A13 powered phone. You can do a lot worse for the money, in my opinion. At the start of this video, I told you, the viewers, how this is the best iPhone in years. And most of that really comes down to 2 things. The price and the size. With the SE, you're getting what would have been a flagship Apple phone 4 years ago in the iPhone 8, with slightly updated specs and, more importantly, a reset on that software update schedule for the old Touch ID bearing iPhone of years past. You're getting Apple camera hardware and software, and to be fair, what this represents is something far more than just a rebranded iPhone 8. It's what this phone represents that excites me. You see, what Apple does, others follow suit, and I believe this will lead to a resurgence of the compact phone, something I believe the market is in dire need of. And sure, the battery life isn't going to get you through 2 days usage, but when you're only paying $400 or less for a phone, I'd argue that's less important than having a fully fleshed out iPhone with nothing but the essentials. I mean, think about it. You could have 3 of these for the price of just one 12 Pro Max. And I think, given everything you're getting here, that's pretty damn special. Thanks for watching. I'm Dave with TechDove. Stay tuned for my Poco F2 Pro review coming soon. Follow me on Instagram at TechDove and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my future videos.